Hi. We're a fair bit into the new season, into the new DLC, and we're all kind of figuring out our builds and looking for stuff to grind out, whether it's guardian ranks or something else. Something I've been doing recently with my fire team is armor. We're trying to perfect builds across our classes, get that high stat goodness. And honestly, right now there aren't many great methods for it, but that's where I've got you covered. In the past, I'm sure you've seen a million videos about going to the helm for your high stat armor, and that worked. In my vault, a sizable chunk of all my high stat armor is from the helm, but right now there might still be videos saying, oh, go to the war table, use that to get your high stat armor, and honestly it's not great. You'll get sub 60s, bad distribution. It's armor. I wouldn't call it high stat armor, so let's fix that. Right now in the game, Pit of Heresy is the pinnacle dungeon, and you veterans out there probably know where I'm going with this, but since it is the pinnacle dungeon, you can farm it, and that's what I've been doing, farming the final boss, because it is a super easy encounter and the armor it drops is pretty nuts. If you don't know about dungeon farming, just to get this out of the way, the pinnacle dungeon will rotate each week, going through all of them minus Spire the Watcher, because it is the most recent one. Same with raids, but don't care about that. We're trying to get this done with as few people and as quick as possible. And out of all the dungeons, Pit of Heresy, in my experience, has the easiest final encounter and the highest stats. But warning, it's not Artifice armor. However, the stats you do get from this dungeon makes up for that shortcoming tenfold. So as for how to do the farm, it's checkpoint sharing. I'm sure you've done it before, or if you haven't, there's a lot of tutorials. It's super simple. Just to give you the rundown, you'll essentially clear the dungeon up until the final encounter. Then you will choose one of your characters to hold the checkpoint on. At that point, you will be on that character in the final encounter. You'll wipe, and then you'll go to orbit or whatever and have your fire team join you. So, as the gameplay is showing, you have your character, which is where you have the checkpoint. In this case, it's my hunter. My fire team joins me. I fly into the Pit of Heresy with the last encounter checkpoint. And then when you're like flying in, it goes into that transition. You press escape or your menu button on console. And then you change character. At that point, the rest of your fire team will fly into the dungeon. And you can switch to the character you want to farm on. Once you switch to that character, my warlock in this instance, you'll join your fire team and play the encounter. The encounter is incredibly easy, and if you're farming for high stat armor, I doubt this is your first time going through the dungeon. I guess I should say this now, if you don't own Shadowkeep, the DLC, you won't have access to this farm method. Continuing on why this farm is so insane is, as I've been gushing about it, the stats are really good, but also this encounter only drops helmet, arms, chest, and legs. You don't have to worry about bond. You don't have to worry about weapons. You're chilling. You play this every single time. You're gonna get a roll at what you want. And while we're on the topic of rolling that armor, for all my warlocks out there, it seems that rocking discipline armor still prioritizes resilience and recovery in the top 3 stats. So definitely do that. As for titans, probably the same thing, but you might want that strength, whereas, it would take off the discipline armor, but Titans and Warlocks have it pretty easy when it comes to the roles you want. Hunters, yeah, that's where it gets a little troublesome. You guys don't have it easy. Y'all used to, but now you're dealing with needing pretty much the top 3 stats. And whereas Titans and Warlocks can just forego the mobility stat, you need it. And in this sandbox, I would really say, if you can't get an even split across the top 3, go for mobility resilience, and most builds can get some type of health regen to make up for that lost recovery. As for what the bottom 3 stats are across all 3 classes, you choose whatever you want. Now, to quickly compare this to the other methods we have in the game of getting high stat armor, we have other dungeons, raids, and then, like I said earlier, supposedly the war table and the helm. And when we compare all of them and we just look at it, the dungeon you can do with 2 people. One person to fly in, one person to hold the checkpoint. Super easy encounter, done. Raids, honestly, do those even give you high stat armor? Yeah, but like the loot pool is larger and you need 6 people. So, issue there. And then the helm, I've already shown you the armor. You're probably seeing it on screen now. It ain't great. So, again, before I take us to the outro, I would just like to point out, because this week, at the time of uploading, it is the Pinnacle Dungeon. You need to farm now. You need to farm this weekend, so I'm uploading on a Friday. Hopefully you get the weekend to do it, Monday included, and you can go and get yourself your high stat armor. Get your new builds going. But of course, if you're watching this video during a different week, keep this in mind. This definitely isn't going anywhere. You're just going to have to wait for Pit of Heresy to come back into rotation. And when that happens, be ready to pounce on it. Because I know I've wanted to get some new armor for Strand builds. And there's a lot of new players joining, so tell them about this too. And that's really all I've got to say about the dungeon. If you'd like to support me and this channel and you can't think of a comment below Pit of Heresy. And if you like my stuff, a subscription, a like is super greatly omega appreciated. The rest of the video is going to be one full rotation starting at the character select screen so you can see how it's done. So if you'd like to see that, go ahead and watch without any interruptions. But again, thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you around.